Around 3 weeks ago, I started Googling for mediocre shooters in hopes to find some shooters I have not played before, and maybe some hidden gems. Well, I did find one hidden gem in the form of Necrovision, but the other ones were really just kind of mediocre or okay shooters. Until this one. Now, I actually knew about Chaser. A lot of you suggested it in the comments, and your opinions varied pretty wildly. Some of you told me it was actually a pretty decent game. Other ones told me that the game was incredibly boring and not worth your time. Well, to be upfront, this game was made by Cauldron. You should know who they are if you've been on this channel. They also made Jurassic the Hunted and Soldier of Fortune Payback. So in this analysis video, we're going to be covering Chaser. How bad is it really? I'll make it easy on you, it fucking sucks, and every minute I had to play this game just got me more and more annoyed at it. Hey everyone, Jarek the Gaming Dragon here. If you're subscribed and you haven't clicked that bell, be sure to click that bell, otherwise YouTube won't tell you when I post videos. Okay, so Chaser. We've talked about the developer behind this game many times before on this channel. As I said, they made Jurassic the Hunted and Soldier of Fortune Payback. But Chaser is considered their best game, and if this is their best game, I don't want anything to do with them ever again. Playing this game emotionally drained me, and I would rather play Soldier of Fortune Payback. That's not sarcasm. I hate this game. Alright, maybe I should take it a step back, let myself stop venting for a moment, and actually explain why this game got on my nerves so much. The plot in this game is incoherent, and I still don't entirely understand what's going on. The game starts with you waking up on a spaceship having no memory as to how you got there or who you really are. What you do know is your name is John Chaser, and everyone in the world or galaxy knows who you are by your face alone. And for whatever reason, you don't really ever ask who you are, and no one ever explains who you are to you. Anyway, you eventually get off the space station, land in Japan, where you get involved with organized crime, being forced against your will by the Yakuza by an implant in your neck that will blow up if you don't do what they're told. You eventually get this implant out and then go over to Russia to catch a spaceship to go to Mars for some reason. All you know is that Mars is somehow attached to your character's backstory, but you don't remember anything, so go to Mars, I guess. There's never really an end goal to the whole story. You don't really know why you're trying to figure things out about your character or what he was really involved in. It's very confusing. Every single segment in this game kind of just goes from one mini story to the next, and they're not written particularly well. For example, you're just forced into organized crime in Japan, but there's not really anything more to that. Despite the fact that they all know you're Chaser, you're not attached to them at all. You're just forced to work for them. This has nothing to do with the overarching story of the plot. All of this builds up over the course of a very long game, where they try to throw in some twist at literally the ending cutscene of the game that doesn't make any sense anyway. I could not explain it to you if I had to. To make matters worse, the writing is abysmal and the voice acting is just as bad.
Too bad you couldn't get Stone too.
Stone? He was on Majestic?
In addition to the cloning facility, he's also built a dark eye.
Dark Eye?
This game also came out in 2003, so there's not really the technology behind what they wanted to do. The facial expressions are practically non-existent, despite the fact that you're supposed to be having an emotional cutscene, except for their eyebrows, which apparently have Tourette's. They never stop moving. I wish I could say more about the story, but I just can't. It's written poorly, the voice acting is bad, and the graphics aren't really there to make the cutscenes look good. On top of all this, the cutscenes last forever. And there really is a lot of cutscenes in this game. Half the time it feels like they're just exposition dumps because they don't make sense and they just go on and on. They even do this dumb cheesy thing where they're standing 10 feet away from each other saying, "I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna do it," and they're both holding guns, but no one does anything. They both have to do this dumb long dialogue about how much of a bad guy they are when they could just shoot the person. I really do mean you're going to be watching a lot of cutscenes in this game and you're not going to be getting anything out of any of them. Much like the cutscenes, the graphics in this game aren't fantastic either. Now, they're not completely awful for that time. This is 2003, so obviously graphics weren't very far along then, but they really don't look very good. To give you an idea of where games were at the time, here's some games that came out in 2003. The original Call of Duty, Delta Force Black Hawk Down, 13, Star Wars Jedi Knight Jedi Outcast, Postal 2, and Day of Defeat. So in comparison, this game isn't necessarily awful, but it certainly isn't good either. With that all said, this game is a complete eyesore to look at because all the levels are entirely copy-paste, usually with very drab color palettes. To make matters worse, a lot of these levels have a very limited draw distance and it just doesn't look good at all. This is a game where you start in space, then go to Japan, then go to Mars. You could have made your game look amazing. No, you shit out this thing. To make matters worse, this negatively affects the gameplay. Before I tear into it though, I will give it a little bit of credit. For 2003, the guns are pretty good. They're modeled fairly well, they have decent textures, and the reloading animations are pretty smooth, again for 2003. Back then we didn't have too many realistic depictions of weapons in video games, so this is somewhat nice to see. Unfortunately though, these weapons feel horribly generic and have no real impact with the world around you. When you shoot a wall, you don't see a big chunk come off of it or a spark, it just makes this boring decal. When you shoot enemies, they just kinda do these animations when they die. It doesn't feel satisfying in any way whatsoever. And the guns themselves are not interesting. They're generic guns we've used time and time again, even at that time. Just because they're modeled well and animated well doesn't make them interesting to use or different. Because even though we didn't have too many of these, we still had some of these, like say in the Rainbow Six series. If only they sounded powerful and felt like they had some punch behind them and had some real effects on the world around you, then they actually would have been satisfying to use. But they don't. To make matters worse, you're going to be fighting these same enemies throughout the entire game. These enemies are also completely brain dead.
Oh. What? Okay, the AI is so dumb. Look at how stupid this AI is.
That is all I really need to show you. You are going to be fighting these guys the entire game. There's not really any other enemy types unless you really count turrets as other enemies. Because I'm sure all of you want to shoot at turrets. That's totally the most fun thing to do in a first-person shooter. We all love doing that, yet they keep adding them into games. So much so that this game had to make a level entirely of just turrets and nothing else. Turrets that will rip you to shreds the moment you turn a corner. In fact, the damage in this game feels super weird anyway. You take a lot of damage very quickly, and you don't have recharging health. The enemies in this game kill you somewhere between 2 to 4 shots. Yet, sometimes you'll just take a ton of damage at once. I assume this is because they're getting headshots on you, but this is never really explained, nor is it clear that they're getting headshots on you. All you know is that you had 66 health, and now you have almost none in one shot, and all your armor is gone. Yet other times you can get shot once and barely lose any health at all, from the same enemy type. And the enemies really are aimbots. Once they know where you are, they will track you perfectly. Doesn't matter if there's a wall in the way or not, they will continue to follow you. The only saving grace here is that their guns may not be very accurate, so they're probably going to miss some shots at range. But this can really suck when enemies are using guns that are better at range, and they'll just instantly take damage out of you. The end result is a game that you have to play like a cover shooter, but there's no cover mechanic, and you can't even lean. It makes the whole game feel very tedious, and tedious is the exact word I would use, especially since this game never ends. This game took 16 hours for me to beat. 16 hours of the same thing, level after level after level. Remember when I said each level is copy-paste? Well, I really do mean that. The first hallway you see in a level is the same hallway you're going to be seeing at the end of the level. And this level is going to go on for 30 minutes to an hour longer than it really needs to. By the time you're halfway through the level, you just want the level to be over. And then when you finally beat the level, you say to yourself, oh my god, finally I can move on, just to start the cycle over again. The best way I can describe playing this game is that you're only 2 miles in on a 10-mile marathon, and you're thinking to yourself, oh my god, I have 8 more miles of this. You feel that way after every level. If I didn't plan on making a video of this game, there is no way in hell I would have come close to beating it. What I really want to know is how much of my playthrough was spent being lost. Yep, this is one of those games. One of those games with a heavy dose of where the fuck do I go syndrome. These map designs are awful. They're complete mazes and nothing stops you from backtracking, so you have no idea where you're actually going or where you're supposed to go. There's one door you gotta find somewhere, but you don't know where it is. And since every level is copy-paste, everything looks the same, with no landmarks to get your bearings. To make matters worse, the game does a horrible job really explaining what is interactable and what isn't. Maybe you've walked by 30 of the same exact looking keypads and you couldn't interact with any of them, but on the 40th one, that's the one you need to push. How am I supposed to know this? And every level does something like this. And if that's not the case, maybe it's just that you need to jump onto something that you would have never assumed that's where you were supposed to go. And the one time you do think that's the way you need to go, maybe you phase through the ground. Yeah, that's a bug you're gonna run into quite a bit in this game. It's amusing. For the most part, this game is a decent PC release. It just kind of works as intended. I had to do a small workaround to increase the FOV, but aside from that, I didn't have to do anything. But then you have bugs like that where you fall through the ground. I actually just assumed that I couldn't keep going that way because I fell through the ground, but nope, you actually can go that way and that's the way you're supposed to go. To make matters worse, this game does a bunch of really small things that will really get on your nerves. For example, you can't swap weapons while you're reloading. You can't reload cancel in any way whatsoever, and you will automatically reload the moment your weapon is out of ammo. This was something that Killing Floor 1 did, but at least in Killing Floor 1 I could install a mutator to turn that off. You can't do that with this one. Or perhaps the way you pull out weapons just being really annoying. Weapons are layered, so if you press 3 twice, you pull out your second assault rifle in that slot, and that's perfectly fine. The problem is you still have to do the animation of pulling out the first one, then the second one, which you can't cancel and takes a long time. This is not optimal when you're getting shot at, especially since you die so quickly in this game. This game even managed to make bullet time somewhat annoying. Yes, this game does have bullet time, and it is pretty useful in combat. However, every time you activate it, it creates this big white flash on the screen. This big white flash forces your brain to sort of recalibrate what the hell is going on screen, especially if you're scoped in. Why does that need to be there? There's already plenty of slow motion effects going on, and I can tell I'm walking in slow motion. This game is already a very tedious game, but when you have a bunch of small nagging things, it gets incredibly frustrating very quickly. And you'll get more and more impatient the more and more you get lost in this game. I had a playthrough up that I kept having to pull up on stream because I would frequently get stuck and not know where to go, and my chat didn't know where to go either. When I got stuck, it was a 50-50 split between the game just kind of being maze-like and not really finding out where I was supposed to go, or the game just not being as obvious as it should be. For example, these lasers look like you can jump crouch over them, right? Nope, you can't. You'll die if you touch them, and you can't jump over them. What you're supposed to do is jump on the wall, then jump over them. Of course, why wouldn't I think of that? This game does try to break up the pace a little bit by adding in some levels that aren't entirely your same boring first-person shooter action, but these levels end up being even worse. The first warning sign I had is the very second level of the game where you're shoved into a forced stealth segment. If you know this channel, you know I absolutely hate forced stealth sections. By forced stealth, I mean the missions that instantly fail you the moment somebody sees you. These are inexcusable, lazily programmed, and absolutely fucking awful, and I never want to play them. It's even worse in this game because the AI is so dog shit. They track you through walls with their gun, what makes you think a stealth section is going to work. They're going to instantly see you and the game's going to instantly fail you many times. This level is nothing more than trial and error, and it will get on your nerves very quickly. To make things even worse about this level, it exists purely because your character needs to spy on a few other characters to hear what they're saying. So you have to go in stealthy, or it wouldn't make sense in the story. You know, that story that you're totally invested in, that you totally don't not give a shit about at all? The next time this game tries to break up its usual monotonous gameplay is by shoving you into an underwater segment. This level's weird. You're piloting some underwater mech thing that has some automatic harpoon gun and fires the slowest missiles to ever have graced the sea, so they're kind of useless. And for some reason you have to navigate your way through a shipwreck. It's not explained why you have to do this, you just have to do it, I guess. The whole time you're fighting turrets. Nothing really more. I wouldn't complain about this too much, as it's not really that much more monotonous than the regular gameplay, although it still is more monotonous, but the big problem it has is that it just has this weird distortion effect on the screen, and this thing is really going to hurt your head and make you feel sick rather quickly, especially as you're moving through a ship that is tilted sideways. Your brain gets very confused at what it's seeing, and it is not pleasurable on the eyes. The next time it tries to break up the gameplay is when it gives you a power suit, which sounds awesome. You have an exosuit, you can shoot people with a minigun and explosives. Why wouldn't it be cool? Well, it's a tower defense mission. If you walk too far away from the gate that you're defending, it just fails you. Great. So it's basically just sit there and wait for you to be able to play the game again. This game sucks. I don't really know what more to say about it. The fact that it took me so long to beat this game got me even more annoyed, because all that time I could have been spent playing another game and making videos of other games, which would have gotten me more views, which would have helped me pay rent. That old phrase, time is money, is definitely true, and I could have spent my time in a much better place than playing this damn garbage game.
Is that it? Oh my god. That's the end of this goddamn game. The story makes no goddamn sense. The story's shit, the game is shit. I don't fucking care. God.
In conclusion, this game gets me annoyed. That's the end of this video. Thank all of you that watched me struggle through this game on Twitch. I don't think I would have stayed as sane as I did playing it if I wasn't playing it alongside you guys watching and talking to me. It really helped me play this. If you want to watch me suffer through maybe bad games in the future, you can check out my Twitch on your own. Maybe subscribe to really help me. Twitch.tv/Jarek4GamingDragon. And if you want to help me further, check out my Patreon at patreon.com/Jarek4. Twitch subs and patrons get to see my videos ahead of time, so check that out if you really want to help me. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll hopefully see you over on Twitch.